Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving Up Live right here on Facebook Live, YouTube, and Twitter. As always, I'm Bryson Carver. We've got a great show for y'all tonight. Milwaukee Bucks up 3-2, Eastern Conference Finals. Got a chance to close it out tomorrow night. Will Giannis be available? Will Trae Young be available for the Hawks? A lot to get into there. Going to talk about Damian Lillard. I know there's a lot. NBA Twitter just exploded when LeBron James and Damian Lillard went to the LA Sparks game last night. And I'm here to tell you why it was no big deal and why another team has a much better trade package for the Blazers than the Lakers for Damian Lillard. Get into that later on the show. Also, according to Kevin O'Connor of The Ringer, both the Dallas Mavericks and the Miami Heat will make strong pushes for Kawhi Leonard this offseason should he opt out of his contract with the Clippers. I'll explain to you why one fit over the other. It's clear. It's a clear and obvious choice for Kawhi if he should decide to leave the Clippers this offseason. Also, the Dallas Cowboys, 2 straight days of Cowboy topics, are back on Hard Knocks, 3rd time in their franchise history. I'll talk a little bit about that as well. So let's start with Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi is one of the greatest players in the last 10 years. 2 championships, 2 finals MVPs with 2 different franchises. Now, I talked about Kawhi a little bit on yesterday's show when we were talking about the Clippers. And, there was this thing about, is this the direction the Clippers want to go with? Go with Kawhi Leonard, Paul George. What we know about Kawhi Leonard is that he's obviously a great player, but he's not the defensive player he used to be. He gets hurt more often than he used to. And he's always gotten hurt. Since his rookie year in 2012, 2013 with San Antonio, he's always had injuries. That we know about Kawhi. But what I think is interesting, and people say he's a superstar, and after seeing this year, I'm not so sure. Because what I define as a superstar is a guy who can be the culture. He doesn't need a culture. He is the culture. There's very few players like that. LeBron James, no doubt. Steph Curry. I think Jimmy Butler. We're seeing Chris Paul. And a strong argument could be made that Kevin Durant is in that group as well. Outside of that, nobody else in the NBA can say they are the culture. Nobody else could say that. Maybe Damian Lillard could, and we're going to get into Dame without a doubt. Going to dive deep into that story in just a little bit. But those are the 5 no-doubters. LeBron, Steph, Jimmy Butler, Chris Paul, and Kevin Durant. So the reason I don't put Kawhi in that group, you say, well, he's got 2 finals MVPs. Hey, to his credit, he does. He's also got 2 Defensive Player of the Year trophies. But that championship he won in San Antonio long ago in 2014, that was already a championship culture. He got drafted by the Pacers, and then he got traded to the Spurs on draft night in 2011. But he was with the Spurs, which before that had won 4 championships, which had a Hall of Fame coach, Greg Popovich, one of the 5 greatest coaches in NBA history, the greatest power forward in NBA history, Tim Duncan, the greatest 6th man in history, Manu Ginobili, and one of the greatest point guards and a Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famer, Tony Parker. And a great front office as well that consistently, year in and year out, put teams together to try and contend. So while Kawhi was great and shut down LeBron, which I guess shutting down LeBron is holding him to 28 points a game, I guess that's shutting him down. But if that's the case, then he's the MVP. Great. But the ending in San Antonio, it didn't go so well. Obviously, we all know Duncan retired in 2016. And it was Kawhi's team. And what happened the next year? His first year, it's his team. They win 60 games. They're the 2nd seed. They're the 2 seed in the West. They're playing Golden State in the Western Conference Finals. And on cue, Kawhi Leonard gets hurt. I know Zaza stuck his foot under Kawhi's ankle, and it was a dirty play. But people forget Kawhi had already gotten hurt in the previous round against Houston and missed Game 6, which the Spurs eliminated the Rockets. So he's already hurt. And then the next year, he had a beef with the training staff, the medical staff, and that was the ultimate reason he left and asked for a trade. And so San Antonio shipped him to Toronto. Toronto had already won 50 games year in and year out. They were the number 1 seed the year before. They just ran into LeBronto, as they called him. LeBron owns the Raptors about as much as any player owns a franchise, right? You're basically swapping DeMar DeRozan, very good player, like borderline all-star, for Kawhi Leonard. Like a big difference there. And so Kawhi goes to the Raptors. They get a lot of breaks. Like we always talk about in this show, every championship team gets a break. Toronto got like 15. Oh, yeah, I swear. They had the lucky bounce in Game 7 against Philadelphia. In the next round, they played a Milwaukee Bucks team whose best player you can limit, Giannis. And then in the finals, they played a beat-up Golden State team. A lot of breaks. And so Kawhi won Finals MVP. I, for one, thought Kyle Lowry should have won it, but that's neither here nor there. So he goes to the Clippers that offseason in 2019. And the Clippers, unlike the Spurs and unlike the Raptors, they don't have a culture. They don't have a winning history. Not to say the Raptors had this extensive, long history of winning, but come on, guys, they went to the playoffs year in and year out. And LeBron was in their way. Like, that's who they ran into. If there's no LeBron, Raptors might have gotten to the finals one of those years. And so keep that in mind. So Kawhi goes to the Clippers where it's his team. This is unquestioned Kawhi's team. And they choked the 3-1 lead against the Denver Nuggets in the second round in the 2020 playoffs. So we go to 2021, and Kawhi Leonard gets hurt again, as he always does. Knee injury, done for the playoffs. And Paul George steps up and leads the Clippers to win the series and carries the Clippers to push Phoenix 6 games in the Western Conference Finals without Kawhi. Now, that's not to say Paul George is a 1. He's not. He's a 2. There's 2 teams that are going to make a hard push at Kawhi Leonard this offseason if he opts out of his contract, which he's got a player opt-out, a player option in his deal. So there's a strong possibility Kawhi Leonard could be a free agent. Now, we all know he's a quirky guy. He's not like your average NBA star player. He's different. He's a different cat. So we have no idea. We've heard rumblings that he's been frustrated with the Clippers training staff. I already talked about that last week, in which I'm like, Kawhi, you probably need to look yourself in the mirror. You get hurt a lot. That can't just be on the Clippers training staff or the Spurs training staff. Eventually, it's like, even the 1 year in Toronto, he had knee tendonitis. And so when you look at this, you say the 2 teams that are going to push for Kawhi Leonard, according to Kevin O'Connor of The Ringer, are the Miami Heat and the Dallas Mavericks. Now, both teams make a lot of sense. Miami, obviously, they made the finals in 2020, and then this year got swept in the first round. So obviously they have a lot of work to do this offseason. Pat Riley, the Godfather, he's got a lot of work to do. And then on the Dallas side, what was the story the whole first round against the Clippers? Man, Luka's balling, but if he could just get a little help, if he could have a consistent number 2 star, Dallas will beat the Clippers. I'm here to tell you, the obvious choice, if Kawhi decides to opt out of the Clippers contract and go into free agency, the obvious choice is the Miami Heat. Why is that? They have a championship culture. Pat Riley, a champion. Jimmy Butler, everywhere he goes, he wins. It is the perfect combination. It is just like the Spurs all over again. Just basically without, obviously having, Tim Duncan. It's basically the Spurs without Tim Duncan. You've got an all-star in Jimmy Butler. You've got a deep basketball team, albeit they did not play well against Miami, but any given night, they can hurt you. Eric Spoelstra is one of the best coaches in basketball. This is the destination. The Heat, they went to the finals in 2006 with Dwayne Wade and Shaq. They went to the finals 4 straight years from 2011 to 2014 with the Big Three, LeBron, Wade, and Bosh. And they went to the finals last year with Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. So this isn't like a situation where they just went with one guy. No, this is what they do. They get to the finals. They are in the championship picture more often than not. Obvious choice for Kawhi is Miami. He'll be able to take games off there for his load management. If he wants to continue that, which I assume he does, he'll be able to do that. Okay. I don't know if Luka will love that in Dallas. I don't know if Jimmy Butler will love that in Miami. But are you going to say no to Kawhi? Like, I don't know many teams that would say, no, we don't want Kawhi Leonard. I'm good. Come on. Nobody's going to say that. And so I think the Miami Heat, with their championship culture, championship president of basketball operations, championship head coach, their best player currently, Jimmy Butler, is a winning player, one of the best players in the league when it pertains to contributing to winning. Because the Bulls, he was there, they won, he left. They haven't made the playoffs since. Minnesota, they made the playoffs. He left. They haven't went to the playoffs since. Philadelphia almost got to the Eastern Conference Finals. He left. They got swept in the first round the following year. And now he's in Miami. Give Jimmy Butler Kawhi. Obviously, Bam's coming back. Maybe they deal some of their younger players to get more veteran guys. Look out for the Miami Heat. And something else for Kawhi. He'll be going to the East. Because we all know, look, the whole playoffs has been marred by injury. Okay, I think it's safe to say LeBron was right about, the NBA starting the season too early and trying to condense the season. The whole playoffs have been marred by injury. But come on, and I'm going to talk about Milwaukee and Atlanta later in the show. But come on, guys, that was hard to watch. Not that it was an ugly game like, the Phoenix Clippers Game 4. It was 123-112, but no stars. Like, it wasn't thrilling to watch. And you look out east. Philadelphia, they got all sorts of problems. Ben Simmons, at times Doc Rivers, in the fourth quarter at times Joel Embiid, they got a lot of problems. Milwaukee, you don't know what you're getting night to night. I blame that mostly on coaching, Mike Budenholzer, but you don't know what you're getting night to night. Brooklyn, I don't know. Kyrie gets hurt. James Harden never shows up at the playoffs, and KD's left to drag the team. Miami would be much deeper than Brooklyn. Atlanta, like Atlanta, I don't know if in any other circumstance they would be in this position. So you look at the East, and it's like, man, if Kawhi goes to Miami, I think the East is the Heat to lose. Is the Heat's to lose. Whereas Dallas, you got the Lakers coming back healthy. You got Golden State coming back healthy. You got, teams like Denver coming back healthy. You got a lot of obstacles. Phoenix, if Chris Paul comes back, if he comes back with the Suns next year, they're absolutely back in the championship picture. Crap, they're in the finals right now. They'll be back next year as long as Chris Paul comes back. So a lot of hurdles in the West that aren't there in the East. Like, as great as LeBron James is, and I think he's the second greatest player in the history of basketball, being in the East helped him make 8 straight finals. Now, he deserves the vast majority of the credit for getting to 8 straight finals from 2011 to 2018. It's incredible. But it is the East. To be fair, it is the East. It's not like he had, he didn't, the first round opponents were not touching LeBron's teams. Second round, rarely. And then his teams really never faced any real challenges until the Eastern Conference Finals most years. So being in the East, it's always been the lesser conference. It's called the least, right? The Eastern Conference is called by many, including myself, the Leastern Conference. So that contributes as well. I think Kawhi would be a perfect fit in Miami because he doesn't have to be the guy. He doesn't have to be the leader. All eyes aren't going to turn to Kawhi when the going gets tough. They're going to turn to Jimmy Butler. They're going to turn to Eric Spoelstra. So I think it takes pressure off Kawhi for the fact that it's a championship culture in Miami, and the path to the finals would be easier than if he went to Dallas. That's why I think Kawhi should go to Miami. if it is true that that report is true, that those teams are going to pursue him if he opts out of his Clippers contract. Now, will he stay at the Clippers? Man, I don't know. I don't know. I would not say yes. I wouldn't say no. Like I said, Kawhi is a weird cat. He's different. So who knows? Maybe Uncle Dennis will give us some kind of leak. Who knows? With Kawhi Leonard, but it'll be interesting to see. So now to another superstar who could be on the market, but the trade market. Kawhi could be a free agent. Damian Lillard could be on the trade market. Because we've heard reports from Chris Haynes, great source, that Dame isn't that happy in Portland, that he may request a trade. We've seen some cryptic IG posts from Damian Lillard. My view is this, before we get into the trade destinations and where I think the most likely would be for Dame, or who has the best package to get Dame, is with him, I think the straw that broke the camel's back, Damian Lillard's talked about for years, I want to stay in Portland. I want to win a championship in Portland. I want to have a parade in the city of Portland. But I think he realized, okay, year in and year out, first of all, I don't have a co-star. I like CJ McCollum, guys, I really do, but he's not a 2. He's a 3. He's like Chris Middleton. He's a 3. Dame's like, I'm getting us to the playoffs year in and year out and playing my best basketball. I'm in the middle of my prime. And I think the straw that broke the camel's back was Game 5 against Denver. Series is tied 2-2. It's in Denver, and Damian Lillard hits a game-tying shot at the end of regulation, hits a game-tying shot in overtime, and in double overtime, when he scored 55 points, hit 12 threes, a playoff record, he did all that just for Robert Covington to miss a wide-open dunk, and at the end of the game, CJ McCollum stepping out of bounds. He was like, I literally had the greatest performance of my life, and it didn't mean a thing. That's where he was like, I can't do this anymore. I got to put myself in a position. What's the biggest fear of every superstar in the NBA? It's the fear of being on the greatest players without a ring list. The Charles Barkleys, the Karl Malones, the John Stocktons, the Clyde Drexlers, the Reggie Millers. I know I'm only going 90s here. Jordan robbed them all of championships, but you get the idea. Steve Nash. That's not a list you want to be on. And so here's why I think would be the ideal, the perfect destination for Damian Lillard. Better said, who has the best trade package for Damian Lillard? It's the Golden State Warriors. It is not the Los Angeles Lakers. Bryson, LeBron, Dame went to the LA Sparks WNBA game. Yeah, cool. Let me get a little bit of context about that. You know what LeBron James and Damian Lillard have in common? They're both in Space Jam, the new Space Jam coming out next Friday. Can't wait to go see that movie, by the way. But they're both in Space Jam. The night before was the premiere of Space Jam in Los Angeles. The next night, they went to the WNBA game. It's no big deal. Is LeBron probably making a recruiting pitch to Dame? Yeah, and he should. He absolutely should, right? Who wouldn't want Damian Lillard? Second best point guard in the league? Are you kidding me? Who wouldn't want that guy? And LeBron's one of the best recruiters in the league. So yeah, absolutely. Of course he's making a pitch. Golden State has the better trade package. Here, I put it together. Here's what they could do. You package Andrew Wiggins, James Wiseman, a bench guy, Eric Paschall, good scorer off the bench, and the 2 first-round picks. Because Golden State got Minnesota's first-round pick. They fleeced the Timberwolves in that trade a year ago, fellas. They really did. But anyways, Golden State got Minnesota's pick, so Golden State has the 7th pick and the 14th pick in this upcoming NBA draft. So they got the 2 draft picks. Andrew Wiggins, a 20-point-per-game scorer who shot a career high from 3 and played his best defense of his career. Okay. James Wiseman, what does every NBA general manager, and I like James Wiseman a lot, but what does every general manager like when it comes to trade packages? Young players with upside. That's like the number one word we hear during the draft, not just NBA, but NFL, baseball, soccer. I mean, just everything. We always hear upside. James Wiseman got a lot of upside. Okay. We saw that in spurts when he wasn't hurt with Golden State last year. Okay. You got Eric Paschall. Eric Paschall's first team all rookie last year. And injuries pretty much ruined his season this year. He's a good scorer off the bench, good energy player. You package that for Damian Lillard and Enes Kanter. He's got to include a big in there. You know, Golden State wants to get a big for a big. Enes is a horrible defensive player, so they start Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard's a much better defensive player than Enes Kanter. That's your package. That's your package. Maybe you could even, instead of Enes Kanter, Yusuf Nurkic. But that's the package. So then Golden State has a starting lineup of Steph, Dame. You move Clay to the 3, Draymond, Kawhi Leonard. You still got a good bench. At that point, you would have Jordan Poole, who really came on at the end of the season, Juan Toscano Anderson, same story, and Enes Kanter. And you know Golden State, you know Bob Myers. They're going to make moves for veterans. Whether it's in free agency, whether it's at the trade deadline this upcoming season, they'll make moves for veterans. On the part of the Lakers, the number one trade package I've heard is just straight up Anthony Davis for Damian Lillard. Now, if I was Rob Pelinka, I'd do that in a heartbeat. But I don't think he will. So obviously, they're not trading LeBron, obviously. So if the Lakers want to run it back with LeBron and AD and still make a run at Damian Lillard, who do they trade? Montrez, THT, Taylor Horton-Tucker, KCP, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Kyle Kuzma. That's what you're going to package for Damian Lillard. Do you think Portland's going to take that? Because here's the thing on Portland's part. Portland knows if they trade Damian Lillard, they're in rebuild mode. They are in rebuild mode. Because I got news for y'all. CJ McCollum ain't getting the Blazers to the playoffs in the Western Conference. It's not going to happen. Okay, they'll go into rebuild. They may trade CJ elsewhere and just say we're going the OKC route. We're just going to go and tank. Acquire as many draft picks as we can. Hello, Golden State's got 2. They've got a young player, James Wiseman, with as much upside as any big in the game. You got Andrew Wiggins, 20-point-per-game scorer, great defensive player, who averaged a career high in three-point percentage, so he can knock it down. And you got Eric Paschall, guy coming off the bench who can score. That's the perfect trade deal, and trade package, I should say. Golden State sends that group of 5, the 3 players, the 2 picks for Dame and Enes Kanter. Heck, if you want to keep Enes Kanter, keep him. That's fine. As long as we get Dame time, Dame Dollar, thank you very much. The number one question with the Lakers is, do they want to trade AD for Damian Lillard? Now, again, if I'm Rob Pelinka, I don't even think about it twice. Because I saw this stat today. This is, just think about this for just a second. Anthony Davis missed more games this year due to injury than Damian Lillard has in his entire 9-year career. He can't stay healthy. Now, AD's not going to miss this many games next year. He's going to come into the season in shape, unlike this year. And he's going to have a longer offseason, unlike this year. So AD is going to be great, but he is going to get hurt. He always gets hurt. Just like Kawhi, he always gets hurt. Dame never gets hurt. So that's the ultimate thing for the Lakers. If they say, we're going to run it back with LeBron and AD, but we still hear rumblings they're going to get Damian Lillard, then what do they have? Kuzma? KCP? Taylor Horton-Tucker, nice. Taylor Horton-Tucker's a nice young player. Kyle Kuzma is not. Caldwell Pope's a good veteran guy. Montrezl Harrell, maybe, they could have him opt into his deal and trade him to Portland. But would the Blazers take that over a future star big, a scorer off the bench, a great two-way wing, or I wouldn't say great, a good two-way wing, and 2 draft picks in the top 14? It's a no-brainer. It is a no-brainer. So I'm hearing all this Lillard to the Lakers. It's not going to happen. Well, he went to the Sparks game with LeBron. They're in Space Jam. LeBron has hung out with Clay. He hangs out with Draymond all the time. I don't think Draymond's part of the Goon Squad in the movie, but I've saw that Draymond is in the movie. So that'll be fun. But he's hung out with Diana Taurasi on occasion. Who else is on the Goon Squad? Obviously, he's teammates with Anthony Davis. Is that it? Oh, and Neko Womake, I think, is the other one. Great WNBA player. He knows all of them. He hangs out with them. Okay, so this notion. Oh, because he went to the game with Dame. Stop. It's not going to happen. They don't have the trade package to do it, unless they just trade AD for Dame straight up. That's the only way the Lakers could land Damian Lillard. Golden State got assets everywhere. So just throwing that out there. I think it's going to happen. And the Warriors will have a backcourt of Steph and Dame. Oh, by the way, Klay Thompson's your small forward now. He's a pretty good shooter. One of the better playmakers, Draymond Green. Great defensive player as well. And a solid bench with a great coach. That has championship written all over it. So let's move to the Dallas Cowboys now. According to Adam Schefter earlier today, he broke the story around lunch that Dallas will be featured on this season of Hard Knocks. This is the 3rd time in the franchise history they've been on the show. And I'm all here for it. I am all here for it. I believe, according to Schefty, the show will debut on Tuesday, August 10th at 10 p.m. on HBO. I think this is a great move by HBO, and here's why. There's a lot of teams with stories. There's always teams with stories. They always want to go to the team who's the most interesting team. They don't always go to the best team. Okay, a couple of years ago, they went with the Raiders, who were coming off a 4-12 year, but why were they going there? John Gruden, right? Exciting coach. Antonio Brown, that was the biggest story, right? All the chaos that went on with him and the Raiders in the 2019 preseason, which obviously culminated in him getting released. Right? You got, Derek Carr. Does Derek Carr and John Gruden, do they like each other? Like a lot of stories with the Raiders a couple of years ago. Last year, it was the Chargers and the Rams. They did the 2 LA teams. Why? They were moving into a new stadium. Okay, and you had the pandemic obviously added to it. This year, they choose Dallas. Now, we all know about the Dallas Cowboys. They haven't won a championship. Trust me, I know as a Cowboys fan, you don't have to remind me. They haven't won a championship since the 1995 season. It's been 26 years. So, not a lot of championships in the recent past. But you cannot say this about Dallas. You can never say this, that they're uninteresting. Whether it's on the field, whether it's off the field, they're interesting. A lot of that stems from the owner. Some of that stems from players they've had that have had off-field issues. Seemed like every year a defensive lineman for the Cowboys was getting arrested and suspended 4 games. All right, so it's the off-field stuff as well. So here's the storylines with the Cowboys. First of all, you got Jerry. Jerry's a storyline unto himself. We all know that. For better or for worse, Jerry's always in the news. You got Dak Prescott, a guy who some in the front office don't even believe in. It took him 3 years to get a contract done, fellas. 3 years to get a contract done with Dak Prescott. And to Dak's credit, he got everything he wanted. $40 million a year, most guaranteed money in NFL history. He's going to make $75 million in the first year, which is by a mile the record. And he gets the long-term. He gets the long-term deal. 4 years. So you got that. Like, is Dak the franchise quarterback? Can he lead the Cowboys to a Super Bowl? In that 4-year span. Now, I believe he will. I don't think it'll be this year. I think Dallas will get to the NFC Championship game this year. But I don't think they'll win the Super Bowl. But I do think he'll win a Super Bowl in this 4-year span. Okay, you've got Ezekiel Elliott. Well, since he signed that contract, at the time made him the highest paid running back in the league. Now he's the second highest paid behind Christian McCaffrey. Alvin Kamara may make more money than him, but Zeke got his bread. And since he did, haven't really seen the same Zeke as we did his first 3 years in the league. Matter of fact, his yards per carry has went down every single year since his rookie year. And we're hearing a lot of good things about Zeke as far as his training in the offseason. I've seen him. He looks leaner. Okay. So you have that aspect. Okay. Can Zeke show up? You got the wide receiving core. One of the 3 best in the league as far as I'm concerned. I think only Tampa Bay and Kansas City, the 2 Super Bowl teams, have better receiving cores than Dallas. Okay. So you got that. You got that interesting. You got the defense. Lord have mercy. The defense could have been worse last year. Could not stop anything, especially the run. How many teams just ran it down the Cowboys' throat last year? Cleveland did. Arizona did. Baltimore did. Washington did. It was bad. It was really bad. See, that component, like, man, can the defense, like I said on yesterday's show, I talked about Dak Prescott saying this can be a special year for the Cowboys. And I said, I agree. If the defense is average, I'm not even asking them to be good or great. Average. They were that bad last year. When you look at the amount of points that the Cowboys scored in the games that Dak Prescott played last year, 17 points, that's not going to get it done. But then after that, 40 points on Atlanta, and it took a lucky onside kick to win. 31 on Seattle. 38 on Cleveland. And in the game against Cleveland, they scored 38 points and lost by 11. They lost by 2 touchdowns, essentially. Like, that's how bad the defense was. So, you're like, okay, you got Micah Parsons, first-round rookie. You got, they went all defense the first, 5 rounds of a draft? So they made it apparent, okay, this is our biggest hole. This is our biggest weakness. We got to improve this side of the football. You got Mike McCarthy. First year without Aaron Rodgers. I get Dak was hurt, but it wasn't great. 6-10. Offense really struggled. Kind of predictable at times. A lot of failed fake punts. It was not a pretty year for Mike McCarthy. And so you got a little bit of pressure on it. It's like, okay, year 2, like, can you bounce back? There's not the COVID issue as much this year as there was last year. Obviously with, the vaccinations and stuff. So you have that component onto it. So Dallas has never, the Dallas Cowboys, it's not like they're, it's not like they don't have any stories. We always know, okay, yeah, they're going to be interesting. We don't know if they'll be a championship team, but they'll be interesting. It's kind of like, it's kind of like that movie that, is not going to win an Oscar, but boy, was it interesting. I was entertained. That's what the Cowboys are. Now this year, I think they will turn that into a winning culture. I really believe that. I think because you look at the NFC, obviously Tampa Bay is the team to beat. There's no question about it. But you look at Green Bay, if Aaron Rodgers isn't back, and I don't think he will be, I don't care how good Jordan Love is, with Aaron Rodgers, they got to the NFC Championship game. Without him, they're not contenders. Okay, you look at the LA Rams, like the Rams a lot with Matthew Stafford this year. They're in the way. But then you look at the Seattle Seahawks. Now, Russ is great. Russ is back. But year in and year out, they seem to kind of fizzle out around December and go into the playoffs with no momentum. Like that seems to happen to the Seahawks these last 3-4 years. Okay, who else we got in the NFC? Let's see. You go to the Chicago Bears, who made the playoffs last year. Look at the Saints, right? Look at the New Orleans Saints. I think they might be a fringe playoff team, possibly, even without Drew Brees, because I think Jameis Winston, with that coaching staff, can clean up a lot of his turnovers. But no, without the turnovers, Jameis Winston's a pretty good quarterback. So that's the number one story for the Saints. If Winston is the guy, which I think he absolutely is over Taysom Hill, can he clean up the turnovers? If he does, Saints may be a playoff team. Okay, you look at these different teams in Arizona, but they missed the playoffs last year with their team fully healthy. Like Dallas, offensive line was hurt, quarterback got hurt, right? You had guys on the defensive end get hurt. Like it was just injury after injury for Dallas last year. And so the number one story for them will be health and can the defense be average? If so, this is an NFC championship team. I think they'll lose to Tampa when it's all said and done. But this is a team that'll make the NFC championship game. So it's not like Dallas is it's not like they don't have a good story here and there. And if they're not in the news, Jerry will make sure they will be. That's who he is. For better or for worse, Jerry will keep them in the news. So it'll be interesting. He'll have some weird quotes. He'll have some weird analogies, as he always does at training camp. But there's no contract controversies. But there's plenty of other stories as well for the Dallas Cowboys. So they could have went in the direction of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Obviously, you got Urban Meyer, first year there. You got Trevor Lawrence, first overall pick, the guy who's sky's the limit. And we don't say that about a lot of first round picks around here, but sky's the limit for Trevor Lawrence. He can be the best quarterback in the league if he wants to, and if Jacksonville is able to build a good team around him. You got the Tim Tebow thing. Trust me, we've talked about Tim Tebow at length on this show. Right? It's like, oh my God, Tim Tebow's not been in the NFL for a decade almost, and he's back because of his old college head coach, Urban Meyer. So you got that story. They could have went with Jacksonville. They could have went with the Cleveland Browns, right? I know they went with them in 2018, but a lot of stories with Cleveland, right? Because it's, they made the playoffs last year for the first time in almost 20 years, right? They won their first playoff game since the 90s. And so the question is, and Cleveland got better in the offseason with guys coming back healthy, adding guys in free agency. And so the number one question for the Browns is Baker that guy? Can he get us to a championship level? I have my doubts, but we'll see. Green Bay would have been a perfect team, right? With the whole Aaron Rodgers situation. And also saying, hey, if there is no Aaron Rodgers, is Jordan Love the guy? Do the coaches like Jordan Love? Do his teammates like him? Right? So there's that story. So there's a lot of teams. The Rams with Matthew Stafford. Of course, they couldn't do the Rams. They did the Rams last year. But it's not like they have a shortage of teams, which they could do. Heck, the Arizona Cardinals will be interesting because you had, the additions of J.J. Watt and A.J. Green. I thought their draft was decent. They showed flashes of being a playoff team last year. Could have used Arizona. So there's a lot of options that the NFL and HBO could have went with. Dallas was probably the best one. So I'll be interested to see on how this one plays out and all the stories that will come from the third edition or the third edition of the Dallas Cowboys on Hard Knocks. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Now, Hawks Bucks Eastern Conference Finals last night, Game 5. I picked Atlanta. They didn't win. Milwaukee did, 123-112. The game was about what I thought it'd be. I'm not talking about the result, obviously, but just told you I picked Atlanta. But the game was about what I thought it'd be. Both teams missing their superstars. Interesting at times, but you're not plugged in. I mean, to be completely honest with y'all, I watched it on and off. No offense, Milwaukee. No offense, Atlanta. But give me interesting. That's my biggest criticism of the playoffs this year is outside of Phoenix, and even the Clippers were at least somewhat interesting. Out east, if there's no Trae Young, Hawks aren't interesting. If there's no Giannis, the Bucks are definitely not interesting. And the question is, will both return in game 6? I feel more confident. This is just off the cuff. This is not, a thought out. This is not a researched, because I'm not a doctor. I'm not in the Bucks or Hawks locker room. If I had to guess which superstar comes back first, I would say Giannis. Because Giannis was able to, when he got hurt in game 4, he walked to the locker room in his own power. Right? He looked fairly mobile. Like, keep in mind about Trae Young. Trae Young was on the bench, for the Hawks games, but he didn't get up much. Like, we saw Giannis jumping up and down and, cheering on his teammates. Like, Giannis looked a lot more mobile than Trae Young did. And Giannis is bigger, too. So that says a lot. Giannis is 6'11". Trae is what? 6'1", 6'2" at the tallest, right? At most. So I think Giannis will be back in game 6. Maybe Trae will be as well. I don't feel as confident about Trae. The good thing about Giannis is the MRI revealed no structural damage, so that's great. It's great news. I think he'll be back in game 6. If there's no Trae Young, then I think the Bucks will go into this game knowing, okay, to use a Giannis Antetokounmpo term, we played with our food in game 4 when Trae Young was out. They kicked our you-know-whats. They shouldn't have. Let's go in and dominate them from the beginning. Take their hearts from the beginning to where at halftime they're down, 16, 17 points. And they're like, yeah, we can't come back from this. They'll fight. Atlanta's fought this whole postseason, but subconsciously they'll know, man, we need Trae. We need Trae. And the ATL, State Farm Arena, will be rocking as it always is, but Bucks will quiet them fairly early. So I could just do my prediction. I could make 3 different predictions. If Giannis is back and Trae Young is not, I got the Bucks big tomorrow night, winning the series and advancing to the NBA Finals. If Trae Young is back and Giannis is not, which I think is the least likely scenario, I think Atlanta wins and forces a game 7. If both are back, that's where it's interesting, because you got the 2 best players in the series beat up, banged up, with lower body injuries. Giannis with his leg, Trae with his ankle. This is where it gets to kind of a coin flip. I would take Atlanta. I know I picked the Bucks in 6, but listen, I bet against Atlanta too many times this postseason. If Trae is on the floor, they win. If Giannis is on the floor and Trae is not, I think the Bucks win. So that's what I'm saying. It comes down to Trae Young. If he's there, there'll be a game 7 on Monday night. If he's not, it's over. Now, there's also the possibility, do neither player play? Does Giannis not play? Does Trae Young not play? Which I really, really, really hope is not the case. I really hope it's not the case because, man, last night was not great. I mean, I know, on the Milwaukee side, you had guys. Brook Lopez had a great game. Brook Lopez had the best game of his career as a Buck. 14 for 18 from the field, 33 points. You kidding me? Chris Middleton gave you 26, shot 50% for the field, gave you 13 rebounds. Bobby Portis was excellent, gave you 22 points, 8 rebounds. So the other guys, it was the starting lineup for the most part that did the majority of the damage for the Bucks. They scored 12 points from their bench. So, it was the starting lineup for the Milwaukee Bucks that got the job done. But on the Atlanta side, that's what you're see is I have a comment here from John. He said, "What's up, my guy? What's up, man? How you doing? It's great to have you in the stream." So I think that's the key. If Trae is on the floor, Atlanta wins regardless if Giannis plays. I can't see them getting closed out at home if Trae plays. If Giannis plays and Trae doesn't, I think it's over, and I think it's a blowout in favor of the Bucks. If neither play, which please don't be the case, I got Atlanta close, probably by 3 or 4 points. But it'll be an interesting game 6. It all hinges the level of interesting when it comes to this game will all hinge on an MRI, pretty much. It all hinge on an MRI, whether these 2 guys can suit up. But Phoenix is sitting pretty right now, right? They're healthy. Chris Paul, the shoulder injury, the very first game of the playoffs against the Lakers. And, he's seemed to be fine now. Seems to be fine now. And came back from COVID, had the best game of his career on Wednesday night. We talked about him yesterday. But Phoenix is sitting pretty. They get a week off. Final start next Thursday. And whoever wins the series is going to come in beat up. So right now, Phoenix has a pretty big advantage. Also, Phoenix gets home court advantage regardless of how the series plays out. So we'll see. We'll see. Game 6 it'll be something. But it's just very interesting that on this show, the playoff game was my final topic. Not the possibilities of Kawhi or Damian Lillard or even the NFL, the Dallas Cowboys being on Hard Knocks. Just goes to show you the NBA in every sport, it's a stars league. I'd say the NBA more than any other sport because it's only 5 guys. It's 5 guys on the floor. So yeah, you need your star players to be healthy. And LeBron, he was right. He was right. He told you he was right, and he was. So we'll see. So with that is all the time we have for tonight's show. Thank you all for stopping by. Be sure to catch Carving Up Monday, as always, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time on Facebook Live, YouTube, and Twitter. If you catch, if you've listened to the Carving Up podcast episode, we appreciate that. Those are available 1 hour after the show at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Anchor, as well as wherever you listen to your podcast. So hope everybody has a great July 4th weekend. Continue to stay safe. God bless you all.